Hey guys, it is Esti and Justin from Not For Long Media.
If you like the video you're about to watch, be sure to like the video itself and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it.
Enjoy the video, and also don't forget to follow us on our socials at Not For Long Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Then we'll just roll right in the pod and keep it conversational here. And yeah, I couldn't swing it. COVID hit, that C word that everyone hates, and we couldn't do it, man. I had to get out of town. I had to get out of Dodge. They stopped paying us in the XFL.
Oh, that's horrible. That doesn't sound good.
No, it's okay, man. It's okay. I played in the XFL for the opportunity and to try to get back into this NFL thing. It treated me really well. So, and it did. So I'm forever grateful to that league.
And how's that going for you?
It's a great question. No, it's been going well. Any day you can put that shield, that NFL logo over your chest, is a really great day. No matter how well or how bad you did in a game or a practice or whatever it is, it's an unbelievable thing. I've been out of the league several different times. You and I have been talking now for Christ, a couple of years when I saw this thing, Operation WetVet, come across my Instagram and wanted to get involved and still want to. And that's why I'm having you on today. But it's going well, man. It's been fun. It's been a journey to get here. It's been my goal since I was, a little boy to make it to this league and play in this league. And then, coming up this week, I get to play a childhood team that I know very well, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. So, it's pretty crazy. I was doing everything in between to get back into the NFL as a player, but, to get back in and then play against a team that I used to do pre and post game radio shows about is pretty unique. So appreciate you asking, man. It's been going great.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. I asked because I tend to think that us veterans, especially combat veterans, and actual football players that have reached the peak of the NFL and college level as well, I think we have a lot in common that we don't realize we have in common within our brains, though. And I don't mean like the whole CTE talk and TBI talk. I'm actually talking about the way that we hit different levels of fluid flows through our brain, because we train our whole life for that moment, whatever that moment might be, whichever game it might be, whichever door we're kicking down if we're in the military or law enforcement, right? And once we're about to kick that door down and you spike the ball or whatever, the adrenaline kicks, right? And normal brain gets rewarded. That's how an adrenaline junkie gets rewarded. I went skydiving, awesome, cool. Now you score that touchdown, you kick the door down, you conduct this raid, nobody gets injured. Now, while you are going 100 miles an hour and you've been already hit with that congratulations, now you've gotten a second reward, right? Once we leave the battlefield and you leave the playing field, how do we find that reward again, right? And I applaud what you're doing right now, because I've noticed a lot of guys that have retired and stuff like that. This is the way we keep that reward going, by involving ourselves in so many other things that is not really just that one thing that gave it to us, right? We're trying to find that hit from other areas. And that's what Operation WetVet was all about. But I think we have that in common a lot, because like I said, people don't understand that reward you're getting. You step out on the field and you're already getting this high that you're like, whoa, that's it, right? But now that suddenly you're playing the game, everything's going good, and you're getting this extra dopamine, adrenaline, everything while you're at 100 miles an hour. People don't understand that we can't find that when we get out.
You bring up a lot of interesting points there, and we're going to get into Operation WetVet, but I want to dissect this, what you said about the similarities between military, service industry, and athletes. And it's something that I fear to say, and my strength coach, Jeremy Scott, and I talk about it all the time. He was my strength coach at Temple, strength coach at Carolina Panthers here now. So we have a very close relationship, and we talk about service members, and we're so thankful. And we talk about all these things all the time. Like, could we do this? And he likes to compare, and we both do, because we used to have the ROTC get involved with us at Temple, and we used to talk through things, and we kind of tread lightly when what you just said, that, we have a lot in common, because we don't want to disrespect the men and women that serve our countries. And I know you don't think it's disrespect, but I guess from an athlete's perspective, we don't want to disrespect, because we're not out here risking our life. Yes, it's 100% injury rate. So there's that in the back of your head of, I'm going to break a bone, I'm going to tear something. it's going to happen at some point in your career. It's 100%. So that's interesting you bring that up, because when it comes to training, way more than you're going to do it actually live, right? We play 17 games a year. I train 300 days a year. So, right, for yourself, right, you train for years from boot camp to whatever, but then you're knocking on a door at Iraq, right? For like, not once, I'm sure you've done it many times, but I don't know, maybe
and
it
not
does.
everybody has that, right? I mean, you had that whole peacetime era where guys trained and never got to play a game, though, if that's the way you look at it, right? I mean, we never. So it depends, but like that's why I said at the beginning, it's I don't want to, and I'm very careful always when I speak. It's our brains. You know, our brains are a lot alike, and that's what I want individuals to understand, that, you know, when it comes to mental health, I'm a huge public speaker on mental health, and I try to break the stigma is all I'm trying to do. Trying to let individuals know that our brains are all alike, right? When it comes to PTSD, my brain reacts. If we were to put it into a machine, I'm sure it reacts the same way as someone that's been raped, that's been in multiple car accidents, that's been in very traumatic events, right? Because all it is a reaction that your brain is doing, right? So, and it goes to athletes as well. You guys are built to react instantly, right? So it's all muscle memory that people don't realize how powerful the brain is. And that's why I ended up wanting to go to school, studying psychology. Kind of might be shifting now, maybe to law and legal area. But psychology has always been my interest because of why I wanted to know how my brain changed, right? And repetitiveness. That's why you practice so much, you know, so that you know your route. So that I know when I kick the door down, people don't realize it. And once again, I'm gonna simulate, you know, make them similar together so that people understand I am not diminishing my service or anybody that passed away while they were there with me, but I'm speaking about the reality and the way that our brain works. It is the same exact thing. When we train that we're doing a raid, that we're attacking, I was amphibious assault, that we attack from ship to land, we would attack Camp Pendleton over and over and over and over, so that we knew where vehicle 5 was, where vehicle 6 was, so that those are our routes, just like yours. That's creating a pattern, and it's creating muscle memory, so that when they tell you that number of that play and they say hike, your body already knows I gotta go 40 steps this way and 30 steps that way, right? That's just the way your brain reacts. Just the same way I know that when someone taps my shoulder, all right, we're kicking the door down, I'm going right, you're going left. There's no doubt about it, right? So we end up, our brain, what I realize is so powerful, but yet it's not powerful enough to realize when you're off the field sometimes, when when I've taken my uniform off, because for instance, in my case, I've taken my uniform off since 2006, but I've been struggling with this and getting to really understand my brain and the reactions to it since then. So it takes a long time for individuals, and that's where they get lost in that path where they feel that there's no hope, right? All you got to do is just give yourself new routes, give yourself a new playbook. And like I said, I applaud you for what you're doing right now. And I know COVID brought out the whole podcast and everybody, right? But a lot of people still aren't doing stuff like that, right? But you're learning a new way to get a fun and a high and something that you control, right? So I think this is pretty cool. So
Thank you. No, I think what you do and you have done is very cool. So it's interesting. The podcast world, and I was going to go off with a few different questions there. And thank you again for your time, Ozzie. The podcast world, if you think about it, it's flooded more than ever, right? There's more podcasts now than ever. Everybody has one. Everybody has a voice. Everyone controls their narrative, because it feels like a lot of narratives aren't controlled for us. A lot of different things. People are speaking for you. And I think that's a big push behind it. Plus people have the time and people are interested and they want their voice to be heard, but again, control the narrative. It's almost like we're all our own shrinks on here, because we all listen to what we want to listen to. We all listen to some things that challenge us. We all listen to, or we try to, at least I do. And my friends that I talk to about it, we all listen to completely different things. We're all selling each other on why this podcast is the best or it isn't. It's a unique world. Talk about what you've done in radio and podcasting and how that's helped you.
That goes to that whole thing of me and trying to find that adrenaline hit. People are like, Ozzie, what haven't you done? And I'm like, man, I mean, I haven't played in professional sports yet, because I mean, I'm still trying to get good at golf because I think that's the only one I might have a chance in still. But let me see. I was in the Marine Corps at the age, turned 21 in boot camp. And I signed up after September 11th. And I was in the Marine Corps, got out, struggled for a while, and eventually found myself. What I ended up finding was that I wasn't alone. That's what I mean. I found myself. I really was struggling. I was suicidal for a while. My wife had split up with me for about 2.5 years. I went to a reunion in 2014, marking the 10-year anniversary of Fallujah. And in that reunion, I asked, I mean, second day we were all hanging out, I was there for a week, and I was like, everybody's drinking. I'm trying not to, because at the time I was struggling a lot with alcohol. And I just asked around the campfire, I was like, hey, does anybody here ever want to just kill themselves or end it all? And it got quiet. Like when I publicly speak and I share the story, I tell people that you could hear a cricket fart. Like that's how quiet it was. You were like, what? It was like, and I asked it again, and I'll never forget. PJ O'Malley in the corner is like, hey, Martinez, I know very well what my barrel tastes like. I know intimately what my barrel tastes like. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone, dude. I'm like, yes, because the problem is, and this is why I think people are trying to find and listen to podcasts, because social media has tricked everybody, and that was the problem with me. I would look on Facebook, whatever, and I'm like, man, all these guys I served with that saw the same stuff I did, and I was about to curse. I don't know if I can curse on your podcast.
Go ahead, man. Let it rip.
I'm like, I'm like, all these guys that did the same shit I did. I'm like, all of them are just perfectly fine. Look at posting their life, how great it is. And I'm over here wanting to suck the end of a barrel, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, am I flawed? So when I asked that in that reunion, I felt that sense of relief. And I came back home and I started Operation WetVet. From Operation WetVet, in the back of the fishing boat my goal was that I could get guys for 8 to 10 hours in the back of a fishing boat, and they can't go anywhere, and they have no choice but to listen to me. I have the gift of gab when I'm comfortable, when I control the environment, the narrative, like you said, and Operation WetVet gave that to me. COVID came around, and before even COVID came around, I already had bought all the gear. I mean, dude, I have the Shure SMB7. I have a few of them. I have the Rode, Roadcaster. I have everything set up for podcasting. I was just hesitant on pulling the trigger. I had been struggling for a couple years on pulling the trigger on a lot of things, and it's called standing on the X. It's being on the X. And I introduced you to a brother of mine, my mentor, Jason Redman, and he kind of developed what's called the overcome mindset, right? And I ended up getting invited by a fellow veteran that I took out through Operation WetVet. And he's like, hey, man, Ozzie, dude, I feel like you could do so much more with who you are, but you're like standing on the X. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I'm like, is there a treasure or something? And he's like, yeah, kind of, you're the treasure, but that's not what it means. He's like, standing on the X, talk to Jason Redmond so you understand. So I spoke to him, and he's like, listen, man, in combat, when we get ambushed, that's that place you're standing on. I'm like, yeah, okay, the X. And he's like, correct. He's like, you've been on so many life ambushes that you're just on the X of personal X. And I went to the Overcome Academy. I learned a lot in these 2 weeks that this program that Jay Redmond had started for combat wounded veterans. I went there, and I came back from there like, whew. He's like, man, he always says it. He's like, Ozzie, I lit a fire under your ass. I was like, dude, you lit me on fire, actually. I was like, because it wasn't life-changing. I got interviewed by a newspaper the day I graduated. They're like, hey, was this life-changing? I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like, it was mind-changing, because at the end of the day, you got to change your life, right? You're in control of it. So I left there totally different in 2018. And I started college a month or 2 months later. And then within that process, that was January 2019, COVID, started hitting towards the end. What was it? 2019. It's such a blur for me. I don't even remember anymore. I know 2020 wasn't like an eraser year, an asterisk year.
Yeah,
But
I think it was. Let's see here.
I
Man,
think it was
I'm-
like at the end of January of 2020 is
yes,
when
January,
everything started.
February.
Yeah.
February. I was sitting in Tampa, Florida, really like Lakeland area.
Okay.
We were staying in the hotel there, right near our facility, and I'm sitting in bed and I'm watching the Utah Jazz game, getting ready to turn the light off and turn the TV off and get in to go to work tomorrow. And their players are leaving the court before tip off. I'm like,
That's right.
there's no way we're working through this. Everyone's like, oh, we'll be fine. We're going to grind through it. I'm like, guys, like, we're healthy, right? Let's pack our bags. Let's get the hell out of Dodge. Like, let's go home to our families. Let's find safety. This is obviously a serious thing. Rudy Gobert licked the mic. He had COVID, the whole nine, that whole story. So that's my first, that's when it hit me. Like,
Okay.
whoa.
So yeah. Cause I spent a whole year in college. That whole year, once again, now that I had just left the Overcome Academy, the juices were flowing. And I'm like, all right, the podcast is 100% happening. I just don't know what I want to do. I had a buddy of mine, that same brother of mine, Sean Lopez. He has his own podcast now. He wanted to do a podcast together, but his was just kind of like just shooting the shit. And I just didn't want that. I wanted to, there's such a stigma around everything with PTSD and stuff like that. And I really just wanted to break that stigma. I was tired of it. I meet people all the time because when I walk out in public and stuff, I have a service dog that goes with me everywhere. It's my second dog I have now. And we go everywhere together. So people obviously now approach me and talk to me about it, right? Where it makes kind of like no sense, right? Where someone with PTSD doesn't like to be bothered and doesn't like all that, right? But then again, if without my dog, I very feel insecure when I'm out in public. And it's not that I can't protect myself. I'm legally allowed to conceal carry, and I'm not never been deemed crazy or anything like that. That's part of the stigma. People think that people with PTSD, more specifically veterans with PTSD, can't have a gun, right? I think it's more the fear that we're fully trained to use that weapon to its maximum capacity that scares people. But in conversation, I explained to people, I'm like, would you stop a young lady that was raped by 7 individuals to carry a firearm to protect herself because she has PTSD? And they're like, no, it's her right. And I'm like, right. So it's my right to defend myself. You're just scared that I was fully trained and I've been to war. And, I'm probably not going to spend the whole magazine. I'm just going to spend 1 or 2 bullets. Like I literally tell people very bluntly, like, you're scared of that. Let's be real. I go, but if the reality is, and then I break it down to them. I'm like, I don't need a weapon to kill anybody. I could hurt you with this pen, with this pencil. I'm like, we're trained to go straight through your eyeball into the brain and disable the situation, right? They're like, oh. I'm like, right. So you're going to ban pencils from me and stuff. So it starts the conversation, though, right? So now what the dog has created is it gives me that sense of security, and he does. For me, it's more a control situation. I don't like being in an area where my back's, if I go to a restaurant, I can't. I can't. And I'm not a mobster or anything. I want to see everything coming at me because of society, just the way things have happened in life. It's just real, okay? And I have the best chance of either stopping something or getting my family out of there, right? I feel whenever I walk into a place, I have the best chance of stopping it. So I want to have my eyes towards it. So that's the way I live. And the dog has lightened that sense of security for me because we'll go somewhere and he sits down facing behind me. And I know that when people walk in, they see before it used to be a Belgian Malinois, now it's a German Shepherd. They see this dog, they're like, whoa. Most of the time they think I'm a canine officer and I'm not. So that already just kind of like eases the scenario wherever I'm at and gives me calmness. Now I'm able to open up to people and stuff like that. But within this, Overcome Academy, graduate, COVID hits, a year while I'm in school, that's when I decide finally it's time to start the podcast. And I started Post-Traumatic Survival. It's the podcast that helps you rewire your brain to survive and thrive after trauma. I asked permission from Jay Redmond to be able to talk about the Overcome Army, which is a program that we have for civilians now. Jay started this program about a year before COVID, the same time I started school. And it's a program for civilians as a group, all right? It's group coaching group coaching, and we have 6 coaches that coach there. Myself, Jay, Sean, Sierra, which is Jay's daughter. She's a nutrition coach. And then we have Jay and his wife that come out on Sundays and stuff. And then we have Kenny, a firefighter from Virginia. So we're kind of hitting a few, a civilian, firefighter, veterans, and what we end up doing is we preach what's called the overcome mindset. Like I said, the basis behind it is you get ambushed in life. All right. Life throws you ambushes, and that is now you standing on the X. I tell people that life sucks a lot more than combat does. Combat is easy. And football players will say it sometimes that on the field, it's so much easier because you just got one thing to do: hit the guy with the ball or score. That's it. It's like, depending on,
once we cross the line, right? Once you step over the line, people ask what's going through your head. It's funny. We had this talk the other day. I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah, go ahead.
We talk about mental health, talk about how we approach things. And I'm going to flip it to your side here in a second. And when it comes to the military background, so I'm a very loose player off the field. When we're on the sideline, I'm joking about something. I'm dialed into the game. I can tell you everything that's going on, but it's a very loose mindset. I know guys you literally can't talk to, can't touch, don't want to high five, don't want anything. But it's probably a little an even split of guys that are like, I don't want to say serious because that makes me seem I'm not serious, but just looser and a little bit more, tighter.
How's that saying right now is exactly what goes on in our vehicles.
Yeah, there's got to be like you're flying in on a helicopter or what?
So we were in an amphibious assault vehicle. We could hold 15 Marines in the back, right? And we would be driving somewhere as we were holding 15 guys in the back, and you have the guys that are serious that are sitting there like this, pumping themselves up, and I'm like, dude, I mean, you're gonna be tired by the time we get there, like I'm telling them. And then you have the other guys that are like, dude, check out my girl. This is a picture of my girlfriend. This is my dog. And I'm like, yeah, dude, we're about to, all right, hey guys, we're 2 minutes out from hitting the location. And it's like, some guys are still serious, so yeah, it's the same thing, the same mental.
It's the same thing, man. And I'm just like telling the young guys because they're trying to find their identity. And again, I'm 27 now. I've been in and out of this league. I played in all these different leagues. I played all over the country. I know what I need to do to be ready to play. And I'm constantly evolving, right? Because it's never done. You want to find better ways to perform. But some of these younger players, we got guys that are 20, 21, 22 years old, and you're playing against the best players on planet Earth. You're going to the highest stress situation of your entire life. You're literally your goal in life, and here you are. And they're like looking around. I'm like, just do what's natural. Just do what is natural. Find your piece. Every week you'll find a new piece. The national anthem means a lot to me. I've talked about on this podcast a few different times. It's the only constant thing that happens every single place you play your entire life. The national anthem goes down from high school all the way through. So that's my time. And I've talked about it here again. It's my time. It's a comfortable time for me because I can think back to some of those people that in my family have served this country. And that's kind of a peaceful thing for me. Like, hey, they served this country. Did something a lot harder than what I'm about to do right now and chase people around for 60 minutes. So, it's been a place, it's been a safe haven for me every single week. Is there a safe haven for you that you would go to before entering combat situation?
Man, Colin, that's a crazy question because my life has changed a lot. Back then, I was a very religious person. I was born and raised Catholic, and I was the guy that led my platoon into prayer. Not saying that I wasn't a goofball, not saying that I wasn't anything. Yet we would, I always had a miniature Bible with me in my left chest pocket. It wasn't to stop a bullet or anything because it was a paper Bible, it was camouflage Bible. But I had certain little, quotes and scriptures that I would highlight and stuff like that. And just depending on the scenario, dude, I either would read it again or say it. And then I would just look around. I still do that sometimes to calm myself down and get myself relaxed. I like people watching. I literally just would sit in my vehicle because I was the rear crewman, And I would look at these guys, the infantry that was about to debark from our vehicle, and I would just look, because they made me, I didn't know if I was about to die in the next 15 minutes. If anybody was about to die, we already had experienced losses, before, and sometimes just sitting there and just looking around, and I don't know if you guys do it sometimes, that maybe just look in the stands, you look around. It reminds you that you're alive, and it reminds you of what you're doing. You get what I don't like. I would sit there and I'm like, these guys depend on me opening to make sure this ramp is secured for them and giving them the right information. Like, it just reminds you that you are important. Whatever it is you are doing right there and then, you are important. And that's what I would do. I would sit there and just absorb the moment. I've forgotten majority of them. You know what I'm saying? I never absorbed them to remember them. It was just absorbing them because I'm alive right now. Literally was the way that I would look at it. I'm alive right now. Air tastes good, even though it smells like shit in Iraq. It still tastes good. I'm alive. I'm with these guys. I hate 3 of them, but I'm still with them. And okay, like just enjoy the moment, like, live it.
Sounds a lot like a locker room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could imagine. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I played sports, and and in high school I stopped, but I could just imagine, seeing movies like Varsity Blues, and then having friends of mine that played for the University of Miami, and that I think once you hit certain college and universities, it's almost like playing in the pros, depending on the school.
Oh yeah, they work harder than we do, Ozzie. Don't let anybody tell you. They're going to school.
Yes,
and they're have 6 a.m. workouts, and they don't have a union that represents them. There's no, I mean, the NCAA says you can only have whatever 40, 50 hours of work per week, but you are going right. And again, it's probably more militant than the NFL, because if someone misses breakfast, you're all there at 6 a.m. the next day. If someone does poorly in class or is disrespectful or whatever it may be, like our rules in college were no hats on in class. You have to sit in the front first 2 rows, and you have to have a notebook and pen out at all times. That was our rules at Temple. So sounds a little militant, but that's what it takes, that discipline, and having that discipline there for you to grab a hold of. The minute you grab a hold of all of it, it changed your life. It really does. It changed your life. It sets you up for such success.
The second you stop fighting against it.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
You tend to fight against it. Like, no, I'm not going to be told what to do. This and that. Like, dude, you're not being told what to do. You're just kind of being, you're kind of being given a playbook so that you could last long, do this longer. And which you were talking about it earlier. You're like, oh, these young guys, we in the military, we look at it the same way. And there's just a meme I've seen around, float around and stuff that be very scared of an old man in in an industry full of young men or whatever. I don't know if you've ever seen it, and it just usually shows like that guy with a white beard and stuff, and he's in Kevlar and stuff. And it's like that. It's like if you see an old dog like that walking around the military without his undershirt, his sleeves rolled up, you're like, oh damn, be scared of that gunny right there, or be scared of that guy right there, because that guy is and they exist that way. And then those are the guys that you realize, you think that they're a rebel and they're not, but they're living within the norm. They're living within the discipline, but they're so disciplined that they're able to have that freedom. And that's what I tell people, Colin, that, and that's what I love to see about so many people I know. I mean, fighter I know, Yuli Diaz, he has the world record for fastest knockout in combat sports history, bare knuckle fighter. He started a podcast now too. He's involving himself in so many things. We've had a few talks, and so many other people I know that they're starting to realize that money buys happiness. Yes, it can. All right. But the one thing in life that money does not buy, and the one thing in life that is never guaranteed, is time. Time. You can never know how much you have of it. Right now, I could open my bank account. I can tell you I have $1 million or have $2, but at least I know what I have. Right. You don't know if I have 1 million minutes left or 2 seconds left. I could have a heart attack right here as I'm talking to you. Nobody ever knows, right? So we need to start having proper discipline in our life. And that's why I think the overcome mindset has become so big in me. And when Jason Redman asked me to be a part of his book, I was like, yes, you can share my story. Then he asked me, hey, I want you to be a coach for the overcome mindset. And I was like, 100%. He's like, I want you to do public speaking about it and stuff, 100%, because I believe in it, right? It's given me the discipline. It's given me the discipline because my main goal in life, and I'm speaking to you from my office that looks like a Lego creation because I'll show you afterwards, but is because my main goal in life is not to be a millionaire. It's to be able to do whatever the fuck I want to do, whenever the fuck I want to do it with my family. If my wife and me want to go to Disney with my kids this weekend coming up, that is it. So I've given myself so much discipline to do the things I need to do so that I can be happy, so that I can have time to do the things I want to do, because that's how I want to spend my time, right? And that's what I think, even at 20 years old right now, people need to start planning, not for, the far, far future, right? But if you are planning for the far, far future, that means that you need time to get there, right? So give yourself the discipline to knock everything out of the way now, right? So that you have the time to do the things you want to do, because if not, you're always chasing time. You're always running behind it, trying to catch up. Oh, because for instance, Colin, this whole COVID thing right now, and I hope I'm not touching a touchy subject, but I know so many individuals that have lost healthy people, that have lost unhealthy people, whatever, that have lost people to COVID, right? I had COVID in September, my wife and my son. I'm very in tune with my body. You can call me a bitch or whatnot, but if I have a headache and I have something, I'm immediately trying to check what the symptoms are, what it could be, because I want to start. And I'm not a I'm not, whatever that is, that word. I 100% got to take care of my body, because my body is my temple, is me. Your lower extremities carry me, so I'm very careful on everything, right? My back hurts, I have back issues, so I try to take care of it. I see a chiropractor once a week, everything. So I felt sick, man, on a Friday night. On a Saturday, I went and got tested. And then on Saturday afternoon, I went and did the monoclonal treatment. People are like, dude, don't you think that that's a little too extreme? You're like on day 2. And I'm like, no, because everybody that I've heard that passes away, I'm sorry, waited a week to get tested and then a week to get treatment. You gave the enemy 10 days head start to start infiltrating your body, is the way that I looked at it, right? So that's what people need to start realizing, that your whole life in a way can be like COVID, right? The way, however long it lasts. If you start taking forever to start treating the things that need to be treated right now, it's going to be worse for you in the long run. It's going to be harder for us to fix your issues. So you need to start fixing them now. And when I had left the Overcome Academy, that's what had happened to me, dude. I told Jay I wasn't sitting on one life ambush. And that's what I was trying to say, that combat is easier. You know in combat, when you got ambushed, boom, we just got ambushed, you either stand there and fight, which nobody really does unless you're you're blocked in. Most of the time you just take off, because you have to take off, regroup, and then either come back and attack or whatever. But point is, in combat, you get ambushed and you're on 1X. Life doesn't care how many X's you're on, dude. I could right now have COVID and my mom get cancer tomorrow, and the following day something else happened, right? And if I'm not now dealing with this, if I'm not done dealing with this right now, I'm not going to be able to deal with my mom's situation. I'm not going to be able to deal with the next situation or anything like that. And what ends up happening, what happened to me was I let so many pile up on me that I felt hopeless. I felt that the easiest way was to end it all, right? For me. And this mindset changed it, because what I ended up doing was I started eating a little bit out of the pie. Everybody wants to knock the whole thing out of the way. Oh, we need to get rid of this now. We can't, dude. I forgot that whole Japanese proverb or whatever it is, but like little by little, you could chop it down instead of having to take the whole big chunk. And it works that way, because maybe today I could put 5 minutes into this, and then tomorrow I could put 15 minutes into this, and then the next day I could put 25 minutes into this. At the end of the week, what ends up being something that on Monday because I couldn't put 45 minutes into something on Monday morning, right? I decided not to do it at all. Now, because I broke it up into 6 days, I ended up doing 72 minutes or something. You end up doing more. And I looked at my life and I started realizing time is what I want. All right, cool. Time is what I have right now. Let me use it wisely. Let me chop it up and eat up here, eat up there, eat up here, eat up there, in all these areas that I want, right? The overcome mindset, what it does is it helps you get your goals and break them down in a specific way. You know, we work in quarters. I've always told people you got to run yourself like listen to what I'm about to say. You got to run yourself like a corporation, but your mindset is the CEO. You're not the CEO. You're an employee, right? Your mindset is the CEO, because employees are employees. Let's just say football players, troops. Okay, your general is a piece of shit. Your coach is a piece of shit. You're gonna lose. Your general is a piece of shit. You're gonna lose. Your boss is a piece of shit. You're gonna lose. You get rid of that boss, you're still the same employee. You're still the same teammate. You're still the same soldier. You get rid of that boss, you bring in a new mindset in, and all of a sudden, that same employee is producing 3 times more for you than you could more. Your players are playing more. Your troops are fighting for you harder, right? Or don't have a problem coming in. But what is it? It's the mindset that changed, right? And that's what I tell people. People are like, oh, I got to change my friends. I got to change this. No, you don't, dude. You got to change your mindset, because you can still have shitty friends and have an amazing mindset and still say no to them. That's it. So,
well, that goes back to, right, discipline equals freedom. It really does. It's been, when I'm in the off season, I try so hard to create some sort of discipline. I didn't even notice it probably till, we're talking about it, but I've noticed it in the past where I'm at my best when I have a book of a to-do list, and I create, like, even on the off day. So Tuesday we record this. This is an off day for me. So, right, a day that we look forward to. You work 6 days a week, you get a day off, and it's a day really for me. I'm working. I probably put 4 or 5 hours into football today, but I get to do some personal things because of this, because of the freedom that I have from being disciplined throughout the week. So I'll write, even on my off day, I'm like, okay, lunch 12 to 1, which I'll watch Netflix and eat lunch. And then from, 1 to 2, I can take a nap. But then like 3 to 6 is like football stuff. But I don't just put 3 to 6 football. I put like film for an hour, this for an hour. Like, I have to. That discipline has allowed freedom for me, freedom from my mind, and then freedom from my mind on game day when it's time to kick the door down, right? I know I've done it. I know I've done the work. I know there's nothing I should be nervous about. Performance anxiety, all the things we've talked about too, of just letting things go. I want to transition to the early part, how this all began, 9/11. One of the worst, if not the worst day in American history. A very, very sad day. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Philadelphia area. I'm from an hour and a half from New York City. I came home from school as a kid. Mrs. Krupas, second grade class, sitting pretzel style in a circle. And she says, there's a plane crash.
Sorry, second grade?
Second grade, man.
Okay.
Second grade. So sitting pretzel style in a circle. I'll never forget it. And you guys got to go home. There's a plane crash. So, okay. I don't know. Mom's picking me up. I go to McDonald's, right? Like, and I'm thinking there's a plane crash at the local Doylestown airport, which is a small prop plane airport that my mom used to take me, where we eat Egg McMuffins and watch planes take off. That's probably why I love planes today. And I'm thinking there's a crash there. Okay, wow. So I come home, and I'm sure the day passed by, but I don't remember anything until about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And my dad and my uncle are just slamming probably Jack Daniels or something. We're outside at a little pool house we had behind the pool, and the news is on. I remember looking up and seeing smoke, and my dad and my uncle just crying their eyes out. Well, my uncle was a fighter pilot in the Navy for 20 plus years, extremely decorated, well-respected, unbelievable man. That's done a ton for this country, Persian Gulf Wars, a couple of wars he's been in. And he used to fly that flight that went into I don't want to say it, but it went into one of the towers. I don't want to misquote it. And he used to fly it, I think, every couple of weeks. So that was a really crazy day for me as a second grader to remember that and remember those details and remember that. I don't remember anything from second grade other than that, I don't remember anything from fourth or fifth, or I mean, at this point, maybe even sixth grade. So, right, I'm just a second grade boy from Dawson, Pennsylvania. I have no idea what's going on. But Ozzie Martinez is not in second grade. He's how old?
I was 20 years old at the time, man. 2000 no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2001, I was 20 years old. It was crazy. I was living in Tampa at the time. And I remember the president was nearby reading a book to some kids or something in the area of Tampa.
Yep.
And I was with my stepdad at a construction site that he worked at, and it was rebuilding a power plant, the Tico power plant. And they shut the power plant. They shut it down because they didn't know if they shut it down. There was movement all over the air, and I had seen always a couple of jets fly out of MacDill Air Force Base on a daily basis and stuff. But this day was like jets everywhere, military equipment flying. It was just a lot of more movement than normal. And the safety people, came in and they said, "Hey, this is what's happening," or whatever. We're under attack, pretty much, and it moved me. I was 20 years old, and I thought that I thought the U.S., the whole U.S. was going to have a Pearl Harbor style attack. That's literally what I thought. I remember I was old enough to remember that in 92, when I was 10 years old, or 91, they already had tried to bomb the World Trade Center with a van in the basement. The same people, Osama bin Laden. And he then did it now. At the time, obviously, we didn't know who it was yet. But then once we found out, or once it started coming out in the news and stuff, I decided that I didn't have anything good going for myself. I had just left Miami, and I really didn't want to. I didn't want to fall into the cycle that I'd left Miami and working in nightclubs and stuff, and a bouncer at the door. I didn't want to fall into that cycle in Tampa. And I called the recruiter and I was like, "Hey, I'm 20 years old and I want to join the Marine Corps. I don't have a car." I told him just like that. He goes, "What's your address? I'll pick you up." He was there like in 15 minutes at my house. No lie. It was like, he picked me up and he's like, "All right, well, let's look at what you need, this and that." And I was like, "I don't have my high school diploma." He's like, "Well, we could work on that." He took me to the local high school. I mean, this guy put in work. I've tried finding him on social media just to be in contact with him. But this guy put in work to get me in the Marine Corps. I mean, I do believe now that quotas do exist for recruiters. And and this guy took me to that high school. I signed up, found out what I needed. I needed like 2 or 3 tests or something like that to pass. I did what I needed to do. I passed. And then he was like, "You need to get your license or something taken care of, a ticket." So he drove me from Tampa to Miami. I mean, of course, for him, it's a day off from Tampa, but he has to work in his government vehicle. But he drives me from Tampa to Miami. We go to the court. I take care of my issue, get everything taken care of. My license is now good to go or whatever. I don't have any suspension or no tickets. And I end up going to boot camp November of 2002 is when I went to boot camp. It took from September of 2001 to November. Well, no, before, actually. I was supposed to leave in October, but my dad died October 12th of 2002, freak accident. And then at the age of 41. And then I ended up joining the Marine Corps. I had already joined the Marine Corps. I ended up leaving in November. They gave me an extra 30 days. The recruiter was like, "Man, I don't think you should leave. Your dad just passed away." I was like, "No, I just said me, don't worry." Me and my dad weren't getting along anyways at the time, and for a few years now. And I ended up leaving the boot camp. Like I said, turned 21 in boot camp. So my 21st birthday in boot camp. Got out of boot camp, went to Marine Combat Training, which is MCT, the School of Infantry. When you're not infantry, you go to MCT. And I went to MCT. Then after that, I got flown over to California, went to my MOS school, which is your job school. That was about 3 months, which was for amphibious assault. Graduated, stayed in California, requested Camp Pendleton, and then stayed there, and then was into Iraq. Got my first deployment February of 2004. We were there for 8 months. We came back. 12 of us got selected to be crew chiefs and go to a different platoon that was once again going back out on deployment. And then we went back out on deployment 6 months later from coming back. And then I spent 2005, 2006 deployed overseas. I spent about a month and a half in Iraq on this deployment because we were on ship. So you end up going to a bunch of different countries and stuff like that. But we did spend about a month and a half in Iraq. Came back from there. I got out. And then, like everything else is kind of like history. I got out and then started struggling with my mental health and not understanding how to reintegrate myself. Still wanted to do certain things that I couldn't do anymore. I just be a certain way. There's a certain sense of freedom of just being able to just talk the way you want to talk and say the things you want to say. And, there'd be no repercussion because your bros understand and everything's cool. And now suddenly you say it out in civilian world and people are like, oh, dude, you need to take a sexual harassment class. Or you like, no, I don't, dude. I'm like, I literally was just joking with someone to make them laugh because either I know they're having a bad day or I know they just literally got pummeled in practice, right? Or something like that. And you want to say something to cheer them up and make them crack up. So you got to go way the fuck off the reservation sometimes for it, and people don't get that. And I struggled, man. I struggled. I think the worst was because I tried going back home and, the worst is when your mom says, like, who are you? You're not my son. And I'm like, oh, I'm your son. You can't say, who am I? I'm like, I'm your son. You don't understand what I've seen and what I've done. I've never told you, and I never want to tell you. Regardless, I end up finally having a discussion with my mom about maybe a couple years ago. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm tired of you looking at me a certain way or something. I'm tired of me and you having this broken relationship. And like, why don't you sit down? And I'm like, you come to my house by yourself and we're going to have a long talk. And, I'll let you know. And I don't even know if you'll ever understand why I'm the way I am, but at least I'm going to let you know the things that I think that I've never wanted you to hear or know. And I just offloaded it on her, and it's been a little bit better since then. But yeah, I struggled with it. And that's where I think my worst part was, where that's when I started searching on Facebook for my friends, at least the guys I served with. That's all I have social media for, honestly. I have the Ozzie Martinez Jr. public page that like you and me are friends on Instagram. But if anybody notices, I barely post. I barely do anything. On my story, yeah, but I don't post pictures of my family. I'm a very private individual, because I fear sometimes what people are going to think about me. People have a bad impression when they first meet me. I'm an asshole. I'm a dick. I'm very stern or whatever. But then they get to know me and they're like, dude, I love this guy. This guy's hilarious. This and that. I mean, to the point where, like you said, that people think I'm an introvert, and really I'm not. I'll give it all a go. I've done my podcast. I have my organization. A buddy of mine calls me and he's like, hey, I know you have this podcast and you're telling me you posted the other day, it was like being heard in 29 different countries. You want to be on my radio show? And I'm like, yeah, not a problem. So I'm thinking that, he tells me I'm going to have a podcast. I want you to do your podcast on my radio show. And I'm like, all right, cool. I get there. And next thing I know, I have a Monday through Friday morning radio, Sirius XM morning show from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I'm like, with that, then a bunch of other things came knocking down. I had a buddy of mine, Lex McMahon, another fellow Marine, and he owns Titan FC. He comes up to me and he's like, Ozzie, dude, I didn't know you had such an awesome voice on the radio. I didn't even know you were on the radio. He's like, would you ever want to ring announce? And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, let's do it. So I'll send you the footage. It's on my Instagram. It's hilarious. I made a post and I was like, I guess this means I could add MMA ring announcer to my LinkedIn.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Literally, I introduced 2 fights And there I was, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Titan FC. And it was hilarious.
I'll make sure we post that on our social media.
Oh, dude, because like I said, it's your time, right? Discipline. The biggest thing with discipline, man, that I think, and one of the biggest things I learned was reading this article that I read on Warren Buffett. And they asked him, what is the one thing you attribute your success and your wealth to? And he said, I learned to say no. Right? That by saying no, because so many people want to be yes men or yes women, about everything. That's where time becomes a factor, right? You say yes to everything and you don't have time, like you said, to watch an hour of Netflix. Then you don't have time to record your podcast.
To take care of you.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying yes to everything else and no to yourself, right?
And I think too, no, go ahead, Oz. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It should be the other way around. You should be saying no to them, to everything else, right? And saying yes to the things you want to do. Yeah. And ever since I started doing that, dude, doors have opened up because, sorry, let me rephrase that. Doors have not opened up. I have now opened doors, but doors have been unlocked for me to open up, right?
I like it.
Because I said no to so much other BS in my life. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's your family, your mom, your best friend, you say no, you cut. There's a phrase that I don't even know who came up with it, but I use it all the time when I public speak, when I'm coaching individuals on one-on-one coaching sessions. All right. Do not allow part-time individuals a full-time place in your life. Okay. Say no to that. That once you start with that right there, and you start realizing that they're part-time, you're full-time, that's what you got to worry about. Everything changes. Everything literally changes in life. All right, because of the discipline, the time. And that's where it's hard, and you have to be disciplined, because once you start saying no to all those BS people, all this stuff, all this other crap, then you start saying yes to yourself. I was able to say yes to college. I was able to say yes, I'm going to get back with my wife and have a second kid. And we've been back, since 2014. I've been able to say yes to everything I want to do now. Right? Because I realized, first and foremost, time is the one thing I want. I don't care about money or anything like that. Because even that the chasing of money is sometimes requiring too much time, right? I'm going to have to pull back on this because I'm burning myself and I'm not making enough. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. My money is my time is just as much worth as Jeff Bezos' time, as Elon Musk's time, as anybody else's time. It's just the same. The difference is the perception you give it. Oh no, their time's worth more because they're a billionaire. So says who? You think that guy doesn't want to have freedom? I probably have more freedoms than that guy. And that guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Any of those guys that I just named.
Yeah.
So who's richer?
Yeah, it's nice. Well, you know what? Sometimes we sit there and say, man, that guy's he's making X, Y, and Z. As
3 hours a day too.
What? Sorry.
Probably working 23 hours a day too.
Well, I would say more in our profession, right? Because we have salary cap and whatever. He's making $1 million a game, or he's making a lot of money. And you're sitting there like, man. But talk about freedoms, like no one knows who the hell I am. I'm the third, fourth tight end for the Carolina Panthers. I can walk down the street. I can have that time to myself, my family, whatever. Yeah, sure. I'd love to make that money and be in that spotlight, and I would trade it for a lot of things because it creates a lot of time and opportunity, like we talked about. But some of those guys can't even go out in public. They can't even, do anything. So again, it's what you want. And again, I'll make it clear. I would love to make that money and play in the NFL. Absolutely. It's the highest form of my profession, but to talk and, aid and assist to what we're talking about. Yes. I completely relate to in our business too. There's so much crossover as we wrap up here, Oz. Talk about Operation WetVet. What's the latest? What's going on? I got to buy a shirt, man. Those shirts are sweet. I've been meaning to get one for a while now.
I've asked you, man. It was just, now that we finally met, before it was a little cycle where she just asked people for their PO box or their address on Instagram. When I'm literally going in your DMs asking for your
No.
address, like, but still, it was funny because it was like that when I was on the radio. I was meeting celebrities and stuff, and I'm like, here, am I supposed to give you my number? Can you give me your number? I hate Instagram. Like, it was just, but anyways, I've been wanting to tell you. I've always asked you what your size was to get you one of these shirts. So Operation WetVet, what's it right now is Operation WetVet. I'm not gonna lie, it's me. All right. I have a board of directors, yes, that helps me out and gives me good words in my ear. But at the end of the day, I came up with the name, I came up with the design, I came up with what I wanted to do. Everything was me, and I felt I had to be involved in it. Because of me going to school full time, I have not been kicking ass on it as I want to. So I've now learned to delegate a little bit because of time. Right. I've shared the work with other individuals I think that are in the same position as me. So I have the Tampa chapter with Sean Lopez, Purple Heart recipient Marine. He helps out a lot. And I have the Kentucky chapter with a brother of mine that was with me in 2004 in Fallujah, Jody Hillbilly Thompson. Is Hillbilly's his call sign, but Jody Thompson. And they helped me out as well. This year we did a trip in Kentucky. We weren't able to do Tampa because of the red tide, but what was it? Last year was our first responder fishing trip. We opened up our program to first responders. I know personally a lot of them, and I know some of them struggling with PTSD. So we've opened it up to them. And last September 11th, we did a fishing trip with first responders. So right now we had the last fundraiser we did was for the Surfside first responders, the first responders that were part of the Surfside collapse that helped out. And we're going to be taking them out. It's been such a mission to get these guys kind of like together. I'm trying to get a bunch of guys that work together and not have one of them miss, but people got to work at the station and stuff. So we're trying to figure out a way. I'm actually trying to get in contact now with the actual department, the fire department directly, to maybe work with their psychological department or whatnot. But right now, our next trip is going to be for first responders. And I still got to find out, but it doesn't look like we're going to be doing our golf tournament this year in November. I didn't want to try to bring it down to South Florida, but with the whole COVID ramping back on and off and nobody knows, and it kept on pushing the ability to plan it later and later and later. So we're going to have to shift gears. And instead of the golf tournament that we would normally do on Veterans Day, I'm going to try to see if I could pump one event. I don't want to even talk about it because I don't want anybody to even hear what I want to do yet. But I want to
keep it a secret, man. Keep it a secret.
Yeah. I want to try to pump this out while the weather is nice and cool down here in South Florida, because I think it would be the best time for this type of event. So if we can do that, hopefully by the end of the year, or if not, my goal was to do it by February, because I turned 40 in February. That I want to try to do something around that whole thing to celebrate my birthday. And do something big for Operation WetVet. For the last 3 years on my birthday, I've been doing something big for like the world, even though I'm not a millionaire or anything like that. But
when is your birthday?
February 5th. Like my podcast, I released my podcast. I announced that I was releasing it last year on my birthday.
Well, here's a thought. So I have, and something we've talked about a little bit before about Key West. I have some family down there. One of our sponsors, Shots and Giggles Key West, the bar down there is my family owns it. They're very philanthropic.
Actual Key West,
Florida.
Okay, perfect. I have a charter captain down there. That's a retired Marine Corps colonel that's been dying to take guys out.
Okay, so we'll get Shots and Giggles involved. I have some friends that are in the Coast Guard down there as well. They would love to be involved. And I spent some time down there as well, my family, when I can in the off season, particularly in February. I know you're planning something, but let's start the ball the ball rolling on it, because I would love to do something. We've been meaning to do it for a while now. Let's do it. I'm putting it on air, so it's got to happen now.
That's it.
And let's do it, man. I appreciate you really coming on, Oz. I can't thank you enough. We've had that Instagram DM relationship going for some years now, really. And I have some friends that Trey Burton's been on the podcast, lives in Tampa. He's a big fisherman. We got to get him involved with this too. He would love that. And let's get together in Key West. I know you got a meeting coming up here. So I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for, everything you've done for this country, but really opening up today, because that's why I had this podcast. It's for this right here, to have people like you on to tell your story, and we're able to just talk and be conversational and talk through things. So I appreciate your open-mindedness. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and man, I thank you so much for your service.
Dude, Colin, thank you so much for having me on, man. It means a lot for you to give me your platform to be able to talk and share my mindset and everything, and hopefully it could be infectious to other individuals. And if anybody out there needs help, you can reach out to me. You can I have a website. It's Ozzie Martinez Jr.com, or you go to Operation WetVet.org. But if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me there. If anybody needs some coaching or anything like that, try to get that mindset going, let me know. I'm available, and I'm available for public speaking. I honestly want to break the stigma about mental health, and I want to show people that you can be successful. You can do things even though you're struggling with mental health on any level. So thank you so much.
Ozzie Martinez Jr., thank you, my friend, and looking forward to having you back on and doing some fishing this winter.
Looking forward. Thanks.